Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to ICMS Open Day, live from the castle here in Manly. We're really lucky this afternoon because we have with us an alumni. So Rika Schoening has been with us, started studying with us in 2010. Sorry, I'm nearly giving away your age there, but and graduated in 2012. From lovely Germany, north of Hamburg, I believe, and Rika's been in Australia and Sydney ever since. Not only is she an alumni, but she has a pretty cool job at a place you might have heard of, Google, quite a big company. So Rika's going to tell us a little bit more about her job, her role, and also the future of tech. So Rika, over to you.
Wow, okay, covering a lot today, I see. So, hi everyone, so my name is Rika. I'm a partner development manager at Google Cloud. I always like to start with a little slide to just set the scene of who I am, a bit of personal insights. But yeah, I grew up in Germany. This is how we dressed in our first day at school, these little bags. I'm very into like fitness and outdoor and challenges, anything that's sort of gruesome I'm really into, so get a kick out of that. I'm going to tell you a little bit more, share my journey of how I came from ICMS. This is a picture of me here to working at Google, so we'll go through the timeline today. But I started at ICMS back in 2010. I came straight from Germany. I studied event management. I was part of the SRC. I was a student mentor, so part of all the programs that are here, really great. Some of my highlights, I loved Event Project. If any of you are thinking about studying events, get hands-on experience organizing real-life events. So it was amazing doing a charity event for Bear Cottage, which is a children's hospice, and also organizing a fair for a high school. Some other highlights, working with so many people from different countries and cultures was super valuable. Like I loved learning about different people, different languages. So when you group together with people, you really have to understand that everyone comes from a different angle. Something great you get at ICMS. Some extra curriculum highlights. I love the icebreaker parties. They're really good at the beginning of the term, and at end of term we used to do, I don't know if you still do, cruises and end of term dinners, so they're really good. This is a picture of me at Open Day 11 years ago, so I'm in the German outfit, very cliche. I wore that bright pink dress at graduation. I didn't even think that would make me stand out so much in a photo, but it's a little tip. That's my dad, super proud. He loves free food, so he was just going hard on the canapes on the day. I got placed in industry training, actually I mentioned this in the timeline. Whoop, how do I go back? With the industry training coordinators. So I worked at Rock and Roll down in Manly, which also had a venue at North Sydney at the time. So got to organize outdoor functions like social and corporate lawn bowling events, really fun, like hosting, but also training the staff, rostering and doing the run sheets for the events. So it was amazing. I loved having a full-time job, just the freedom, not working weekends, getting like a solid, like steady income, adulting. But I also found where I worked is some things are a bit old school. Like I found this in the office, and I don't know if you guys know what that is, but that is a floppy disk, and even at the time it didn't really belong where it was, so there was a lot of room for the business to modernize. So I kind of asked my boss, like, hey, do you mind if we made some changes? At the time they were booking just on the phone and then writing it in a paper diary. What if people booked online and they paid online? Could we look at that? And he let me run that, and I ran a project for 6 months and took all the bookings online so people could book 24/7 and pay online, which is the normal expectation today, but 10 years ago that was kind of cool. So that made me think, wow, that was really fun. What else can I do here? And I felt like there's nothing else I can do here. So it made me think about what else is out there. But at the same time, like when you work in your first job and you feel like confident and you finally like know what you're doing and you feel you're adding value, it's also really hard to go because you feel safe and you're scared about failure out there. So something a bit about comfort zone. I don't know if you've seen this before, probably have, but you really got to stretch yourself and reach out there, because if you can stay the same and stay safe, but like where the sort of fear starts and where you get really nervous about something, that's where all the exciting stuff happens. So I thought about what would I really want in an employer. I want to work with people who are awesome and who are ambitious and who drive me, who are like myself in that way. I want to work in an industry where I can grow. I want to learn new things. I want to develop stuff. I want to be a part of innovation. I also want to be rewarded. I think it's nice to work for something fulfilling, but I think having a solid income is really important, especially living in Sydney. So I wanted to get paid fairly and have also like opportunities to overachieve on that. And working in an industry where there's lots of opportunities externally, but also within the companies you can work for. So the answer was the tech industry is kind of cool for that. So it has so many benefits. Just if I think about the US companies, you get health insurance, gym subsidy, lots of them give you like food in the office, learning opportunities, competitive pay, often like you get like equity or stock, like it's really cool. So it's like, I want to work there. But I didn't really study anything related to this, right? I went here, I studied event management. So to anyone who's thinking about what to study, like don't get set on picking something and then you being stuck in it or put so much pressure on that decision, because what you study today doesn't necessarily have to matter, but it can. Going here sets you up for such a good foundation of general business skills. There's so many subjects here that teach you how to navigate the corporate world. There's so many subjects like accounting, forecasting, all these things that I thought were sort of boring. They actually really helped me later in life. So it's this great foundation. Also how to work with other cultures. So bear that in mind. Some ways of how I looked at getting my next job. I went on LinkedIn, made sure my profile is amazing. It was okay at the time. I researched great places to work. That's actually where I found my next employer, because as I said, I wanted amazing culture, somewhere like well regarded. So it's a great place you can look up each year. They have like a publication of the top 100 employers in Australia. I actually got reached out through my network from ICMS and talked to one of the guys who became a recruiter, who actually placed me somewhere that was really awesome, which was a company called Rackspace, and that made me so hooked into the tech industry. It was the culture fit I was looking for. It was amazing progression opportunities. There was a really clear path of you start here, you get up, but also you can go sideways. So I started in sales, but there were opportunities to go into partner development, got commission because I went into sales. So many cool highlights. I traveled like everywhere with work, like mostly New Zealand, but when you made your targets, you got to go on trips to like Mexico, Japan, super rewarding industry. So I really enjoyed that, and I definitely recommend it. From there, I got approached to work at Google because they were one of our partners, and they heard about me selling Google while I was at the previous company. So I was really lucky to get an in with them, but also it was ways of, keeping that network going, having a good reputation, working really hard and being known for that. So working at Google is now just the cherry on top, and feels like it was a long way to get there. I applied early in life and couldn't get there. So it was nice to be approached, but it all came down to all the little paths and journeys I took where it wasn't clear or linear that you would end up here, but it helped ending up there. So again, it has all the things I was looking for. It's rewarding, amazing opportunities, a little graph you can't see, but Google is part of so many different companies. So I work in cloud, there's Maps, Android, YouTube. We recently acquired Fitbit, Nest, and then we have all these other bets like new technology companies like Waymo, self-driving cars. So it's like if I got sick of the very area I'm in, there's so many others to explore. So pretty amazing. Google put me forward for many external opportunities as well. So last year I was a finalist for an award for women in ICT. So that was pretty cool. And I got to MC a big customer event at the ICC and be on stage, which was super nerve-wracking, similar to today, but slightly bigger. So that was a bit of my journey, how I got there. Some lessons along the way. Just think about career paths as not linear. Like your parents may have worked in industry where it was very much you worked in the same place for for your whole life, but it definitely isn't. You can change what you want to do. You can always find ways of sort of bridging into what you'd like to do as long as you have transferable skills. Find a place that really brings that out on you and that wants to promote and gives you a good opportunity to grow. Always showcase your attitude. You definitely can get a reputation in the industry if you work hard and if you want to learn. You don't always have to have the relevant experience. A lot of companies do hire for attitude, we certainly do. ICMS was a really good foundation for my future, just all the practical work, the network, just really good opportunities there. And it's also okay to make mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes. I once went viral with a LinkedIn post where I meant to write lift and shift, which is like something we say in IT where you take something from on-premise to the cloud, and I accidentally posted lift and shit, and it was online for probably a day and a half, and it went pretty viral. So you make mistakes, it's fine, you learn from them. I double read everything I post now, but I guess it was also a really fun joke for everyone else in the company. Yep. That was sort of my journey wrapped up in a few minutes, but we can definitely do some questions if anyone has anyone.
Yeah, for sure. Can I start with a question?
Yeah, of course you can.
I always think about Google offices as like super fun, and there's like foosball tables and like ping pong, and is this true? Is it actually like...
We don't actually do any work. We're mostly wrapped up in football tables and table tennis competition. No, they're really cool. Like our office, honestly, it is like in the movies. So if you watch The Intern, like we have like a learning kitchen. Like you can go and do a cooking class during the day. We have an on-site clinic with physio massage you can book in. We have a massive gym on premise with any equipment you can imagine. You can do gym classes. We have yoga classes, salsa classes, so there's a lot of distractions for sure.
And they do that, I guess, for a number of reasons, but is it the main reason is because they want to keep you at Google, right? I mean, this is the thing, because you guys are getting tech companies, it's competitive, so they're trying to make out that you stay there for as long as possible. Is that why you think they make the offices like this?
I think there's multiple reasons why. Like, yes, of course, make the office really enjoyable. I think now that we're going back into physical locations, millennials, Gen Z, we all want to actually work from the office and feel connected to our co-workers. So that's a big part of it. But originally, so the founders, Larry and Sergey, they included the meals at work because they found that a lot of ideas and interchanges are made at like a dinner table or a lunch table with your family where you talk. So they wanted people to get the opportunity to talk to each other. So I was showing earlier, there's all these different groups within Google. You wouldn't really get much exchange with them, but you do, like we have lunch and breakfast in the office, and then we have like a happy hour on Thursday nights. So it makes you get together and exchange ideas that you usually wouldn't. So that was the biggest part of keeping people in the office together.
Yeah, okay. Any questions from the audience at all? Yep.
So you said that you were approached by Google. Do you know about like the different ways that you can work for Google and what they offer towards the public?
Yeah, definitely. So we have a really public job board that you can just jobswithgoogle.com, or you can Google it. I think my own silly joke. There's internships we have as well. So once a year around summer, we take interns in for 3 months. It is really competitive, but you can definitely apply, and I'd encourage you to so. You can set up job alerts. We often put out industry events as well, where we invite students to come along to different events called Grow with Google and other series. So there's many ways of how you can sort of get in the network, keep applying, make yourself known to Google. So lots of opportunities.
Rika, can I ask, what is Google's official stance on working from home? Seeing that we spoke about cool offices and we had COVID hit us, what has been the approach, I guess, globally and then nationally in Australia?
Yeah, so Google has had like a bit of a regional approach for each region, so acting based on what the local government's requirements are, but we've just announced a return to office about a couple months ago. So as of, I think July, we're back in the office, but what that entails is it's 3 days in the office and 2 days from home is sort of like the minimum in the office, but you can work more from the office if you want, and if you have different arrangements that you need for your family, then you can talk to your manager, and Google's pretty flexible.
Okay. I feel like if there's a ping pong table, you're going to go into the office, right? And
well,
massage.
Different people are motivated by different things. So I'm motivated by breakfast and lunch and snacks and coffee all day and cakes and
Is there a menu, or how does the food work?
So there's an app because we have multiple restaurants. So in the morning I log on, I check the app, I was like, what's for breakfast and what building? And then I go to the building that has my favorite things.
Amazing.
So yeah, we're very, very spoiled. So it's like, I don't want that. I'm going to go over there and get Indian. So yeah, it's pretty plentiful.
Wow.
I have a question. You mentioned about attitude. So can you elaborate a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
When Google hiring people?
Yeah. So Google's quite known for their super tricky interviews. So I think there was like one where it used to be something about a ball and fitting it into something. We don't actually do that, but it's an interview called General Cognitive Ability, and they will ask you super vague, open questions, and you're like, how am I meant to answer that? But they don't want you to actually answer the question. We want to see how you think about your answer, how you structure it, how you seek to find the answers, what data would you use, how would you present it back to the interviewer, how would you assess and review your own stand on what you've chosen. So, for example, it could be a question like, open a hotel in New York, how would you do it? And you at first feel like completely overwhelmed. It's like, how would I open a hotel in New York? And then you have to take it back to, okay, I do research, I'll look at where in New York, blah. So you don't actually say, oh, I'm gonna open something in Times Square and it's gonna be a bed and breakfast. So that's kind of the way that they wanna see your attitude. So there's nothing that you have to have had in your career. It's just a way of thinking, but you can practice that as well.
Rika, you came here in 2010 and you've travelled, but you haven't left Sydney as a base ever since. Obviously ICMS is quite important to that because that's the reason you came here in the first place. Can you talk a little bit about the cohort of students that you went through? Are you still friends with them? Do you still catch up with them? And how's that kind of shaped your career as well?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm friends with lots of people I met here. I was at weddings, really close to, kids and families my friends have formed here. So yeah, many ICMS weddings I went to, so that's a big part of my life. Lots of people move to different countries, so whenever I go on a holiday, there's always someone to visit that I've met at ICMS. Yeah, the network's been really great, so there's certain people who've reached out through over time or reached out to me, like, can you put me forward for a role wherever we've worked or vice versa. So I think if you think about the people you're studying with today and who are amazing at what they do, keep them in mind. You'll probably cross paths again. Sydney's a really small job market, so I've crossed paths with people from ICMS a fair bit, so it's been really impactful.
Yeah, cool. Do you plan on staying in Australia long term? What's the plan? Google have offices all around the world. Have you thought where you'd like to go the next 5-10 years?
I think over the last few years with the pandemic that restricted travel and made you really review where you live and what you enjoy about it. I love Sydney. I think it's an amazing place. You've got the climate, you've got the beaches, you've got a really great attitude towards life and life balance. So I really enjoy that. If there's opportunities for me to do short-term stints overseas, I'd definitely be up for it. Google actually has a program where you can work anywhere in the world, I think 4 or 8 weeks a year. So I'll probably take advantage of that a little bit more and pick a fun spot in Europe next year and work there in the summer.
Sydney, getting the props, I like it. Have you been here the last 4 months with the weather? Or anyway, any more questions for the audience? Yep.
Do you have any advice for working in such a big company like Google?
I think you got to bring it back to your own world that you live in. I think in the beginning it's really confronting being a little fish in a massive pond, and that's something you'd have to get over. It's also that imposter syndrome you get when you're like, oh my God, do I deserve to be here? Everyone's so smart and driven, how did I get here? So you got to overcome that and possibly just focus on, yes, I work for a big company, but I work in a small business unit, and focusing on nailing that area, getting to know everyone in this business, adding value to who you can, and then slowly branch out. So it probably took me 1 or 2 years to really branch out of cloud, but now I have a network into the wider Google. So my tip would be that. Also, we have employee resource groups. So we have women at Google, we have GAIN, which is our Google Aboriginal and Indigenous network. We have Latinas, we have yogalists who went to yoga, we have doogalists, so people who bring the dogs into the office. There's lots of interest groups, so finding your group of people who have a joint interest, that helps as well.
What's your interest group?
I'm actually on the Reconciliation Action Plan group for Google Australia, so I'm helping work towards our next Reconciliation Action Plan, so working across the Google and Indigenous Network and external consultants and different communities.
And just finally from me, as we're talking about the world of tech, and Google, I guess, sits on the top of the pyramid. You could kind of argue there's a few jumping at its heels at the moment. What do you feel like are some of the, not only competitors, but up-and-coming tech companies that will challenge Google in the future?
Oh, it's a hard one. And that would be my personal view, not speaking on behalf of Google. Cover up my phone, kidding, not listening. I think it's a very interesting market. I don't think there'll be many players who can rival it. Like Alphabet, the company who owns Google, is pretty big. Microsoft, Amazon, they're like our main competitors as we see it. And they have amazing companies and structures and sizes. So Salesforce as well, pretty upcoming. So I just see those growing more by acquisitions.
Yep.
I don't see someone coming really out there and overtaking. Like that would be very challenging. So it would be more companies forming together or acquiring each other.
I think Google will like that answer, don't worry.
I don't know. Hope so.
They're everywhere. Anything else from the audience? Yep.
Considering how Google is one of the leading pioneers of the world, have you come across any Google-specific challenges that only Google has had to face in this economic climate? And with the resources of Google, was there a challenge, and how was it solved?
Yeah. Again, not answering on behalf of Google, just based on what I've been exposed to and what was in the media last year. But we were pretty heavily in the media last year with a publisher code, so whereby Google, like listings of news on our newsfeed, it was about how we pay those publishers and publications. So there was an inquest, and our managing director, Mel Silver, got put in front of Parliament and had to answer lots of questions. And there was a thread that we may have to pull out with search for Google. So that was pretty confronting for us, because search is meant to connect people to the internet, and it's meant to give everyone the same information. Like our mission statement is organizing the world's information and make it universally accessible. So we felt that could be a threat to it, because it would put certain Australian media companies on top of individual and independent publishers, YouTubers. So we wanted it to stay independent and not mess up the algorithm that makes it sort of neutral.
Well, thank you, Rika. It's really cool for ICMS to have you come back, because you're our product, and vision is to be the market leaders in career-focused education, and you've certainly proved that by your incredible career so far. So thank you for coming back, and we really appreciate you.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.